What is up, guys? Welcome into yet another edition of Benstant Reaction, an instant reaction to a trade, breaking news, whatever it is going on in the sports world. We are covering it in this edition of Benstant Reaction. It is Cardinals Packers. As most of you know, I cover the Cardinals here for Fox Sports 910 in Phoenix, executive producer of that show, as well as cover all things Arizona sports. Got a bunch of Sun stuff right behind me. You can check out Locked On Suns. I'll be doing a lot of solo shows this week as my co-host is out. But nevertheless, let's talk about this Cardinals game. And, you know, it's, if I put it in lighter terms, or I guess depending which way you look at it, better terms, maybe, this is only the second worst game the Cardinals have had all year. And I went back and forth between which game was worse. I was like, the Commanders game was awful. The Packers game is bad. Which game was worse? And then you kind of dissect the two and you draw a Venn diagram. All right, what's in the middle? What contrasts these two teams? What do we have? And the only reason why I'll take the Commanders' loss over the Packers' loss as the worst loss of the season is for a few things. Cliff Kingsbury was coming in and completely embarrassed you on your home turf. As I just mentioned, it was on your home turf. And at least you had a 7-0 lead in that game, so it was even more embarrassing that you gave up more points to the other team. In this game, there was a season high in penalties. I don't even know if that's true. I didn't read a statistic or anything, but I watched enough penalties in this game as I scroll down to it, and I just know it was absolutely a season high in penalties as I scroll frantically to the stats here. Penalties, 13 penalties for 100 yards, and that doesn't even include the horse collar tackle on the Packer. I believe it was Jaden Reed who got the horse collar tackle on him from DJ Dallas. So yeah, without even knowing, the worst penalized game, and that's just penalties accepted. Through 2.5 quarters of this game, I wasn't sure which player to blame. If you're blaming Kyler Murray, or you want someone to blame Kyler Murray for this game, because for some reason, he is always the person that we look at first, especially in games like these where it's clearly not his fault. Now, here's what I will say to that is Kyler Murray didn't give us more of a reason to believe he is the long-term answer at quarterback, but he also didn't give you any reason to believe he wasn't the long-term answer at quarterback. Unless, of course, you're going to hold against him the 24-0 deficit that was largely on the defensive side. This game is not a burn the tape game. You only get one of those a year. And if you're unaware what a burn the tape game is, it's where you have such a horrific game. You're usually a pretty good team, Super Bowl aspirations, playoff aspirations, but for some reason you just don't show up. You call that a burn the tape game because it's not exactly who you guys are. You don't believe that's who you are, and you believe you will be better in the future. All of that is fine and dandy. The Cardinals already had one of those. And it just leads me to believe that at the beginning of the season, I thought at the bare minimum, this team would be a solid football team with the heights of potentially being a playoff team. Now, the only playoff team I would give them is the 7th seed, in which you could be 9-8, possibly even 8-9, and slip into the playoffs. All that is gone. And that is horrendous to have to deal with through the first 6 weeks of the season. At this point, and we haven't even reached Halloween, you can't talk about playoffs. You can't talk about winning the division. All of that is out the window. Now it's just finger-pointing time. And with a loss like this, that has now happened twice, where the team doesn't get up for the game, there's a lackluster performance, they quit. There's so many fumbles, I couldn't even tell you how many they were. I know Trey Benstant had one. I know James Conner had one. I know Greg Dortch had one. I'm not sure if someone else had one. It was like Oprah out here. You get a fumble. You get a fumble. You get a fumble. The Packers defense was literally Fortnite emoting on the Arizona Cardinals. That's how bad it was in this game. This is not a burn the tape game. This is not a shot in the dark game. This is a something needs to change game. And I'm pointing the finger at the offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing. You do not get to open up the playbook down 24-0 and then start taking some shots downfield and then stop throwing and then stop running the ball up the middle and then stop throwing fade routes. I don't have a clear play-by-play of what the Arizona Cardinals offense was in front of me, but this is how it was in whatever order you want to put it in. Run up the middle, fade route to Marvin Harrison Jr., screen pass, fade route to Marvin Harrison Jr., run up the middle, screen pass. That's what the Cardinals offense was. There was so many asinine calls from Drew Petzing in this game. The one that comes to mind right away is in the first half, where it's 3rd and 1. And instead of giving the ball to your short yardage specialist and potentially the best short yardage specialist in the NFL in James Conner, you get in shotgun and run an option play for Kyler Murray. In the rain, I might add. Drew Petzing has officially lost the right to be the offensive coordinator of this team, or at the bare minimum, has lost the right of play calling on this team. You could fire him, and I wouldn't have any issues with it. Drew Petzing's bar to start the season was so high. We all thought very high of Drew Petzing. He has gotten away from everything that has worked. Like I had mentioned before, it's run up the middle, screen pass, quick pass over to the side, fade route, in whatever order you want to do it. That's what Drew Petzing's offense was. Drew Petzing has made Cliff Kingsbury look amazing in comparison between those two offenses. I'm ready to push the button. I've been patient. I've been kind. I've given the guy a lot of time. But this is not a burn the tape game. This is a something needs to change game. It is almost Halloween of your second year. You cannot still be having these blunders offensively where you have a million weapons. I'm not going to blame Kyler for this performance. He's not the one calling the plays. I'm not going to blame Trey McBride or Marvin Harrison Jr. or Michael Wilson or Greg Dortch. Well, Ben, Marvin Harrison Jr. got hurt in this game. Oh, sorry. Now all you have are all the weapons you had last year when you played effective offense towards the last month of the season. There's no excuse. There's no excuse for this team. Drew Petzing, someone has to pay the price. It's like the Dark Knight Rises, where Bane leaves someone in the wreckage and says, they expect one of us in the wreckage, brother. Drew Petzing needs to be the one left in this blunder offensively wreckage that was the Packers-Cardinals game. You cannot still be having these types of games if you are a competent head coach with a competent coaching staff. You can't have these kind of games. And not to mention, or I guess I should say, you shouldn't still be having these games. But not to mention, it's not just on the coaching staff. It's not just on Drew Petzing specifically. Jonathan Gannon needs to stop with this stoic performance on the sidelines no matter the outcome. Show some emotion. Look angry. Chew out a player. Celebrate if a good play happens. This standing stoically on the sidelines while your team gives up double-digit penalties for triple-digit yardage accepted is unacceptable if you're Jonathan Gannon. Light a player's fire. Light someone up. Scream at them. I'm tripping over my words because I'm so frustrated. Yell at Kyler Murray. Yell at the defensive back. Yell at Sean Murphy-Bunting. We need some sort of emotion from Jonathan Gannon. The standing stoically on the sidelines, regardless of what is happening on the field, is starting to drive me nuts. You can be too level-headed to where it just drives everyone insane. And Jonathan Gannon was a perpetrator of this. He has issues when it comes to that. I still like Jonathan Gannon. I'm not pounding for him to be fired, but he is at to blame for this as well. Drew Petzing was awful. Nick Rawlis was awful. I will say it once. I've said it once. I'll say it again. This is not a burn the tape game. This was a something needs to change game. And I understand if you're Monty Ossenfort not going big fish hunting, big game hunting in the offseason for free agency. because free agency is largely fool's gold, and it is shown to pick and choose your players accordingly. Don't spend loads of money. Keep your loads of money for players on your team that need to be extended in the future. I get that. I've defended Monty Austin for it. Justin Jones, Bilal Nichols, and Sean Murphy Bunting are all three conclusive net negatives on this team. Not only do they do nothing to help, they actively do things to hurt this team. There's no way that the player behind Sean Murphy Bunting backing him up can do worse than what Sean Murphy Bunting did today. The one interception he had was thrown right to him because Bo Melton fell. You don't get credit for that. You don't get credit for being at the right place at the right time because someone threw the ball to a receiver who fell down. I've mentioned all these things, and I haven't even said anything about Kyler Murray or Marvin Harrison Jr. or whatever it is. A pathetic performance. It's a pathetic performance. And we're not any closer to knowing if Kyler Murray is the guy. We're not any closer to knowing if Kyler Murray is not the guy. Because I won't blame Kyler for this game. He didn't do anything to really help, but he didn't do anything to hurt this team. And he wasn't put in a position to help this team. At times, I just felt like he was kind of helpless. He's kind of left on his own. Pathetic performance, man. I had much more of a positive outlook of this team after training camp, after the preseason, after the NFL draft, and it's week 6, and talking about being a potential playoff team or talking about potentially shocking the division and winning the NFC West all feels like a pipe dream. And that's not where I thought we were going to be in year 2 of week 6 of Jonathan Gannon's tenure. And it's just frustrating. It's just frustrating. You can't have that. You can't have your team not show up, lackluster performance, and all you're left to say is same old Cardinals. It's all you're left to say. It's hard not to have the fandom come out of me when I try to be the objective sports analyst where I see things and I have opinions, but I just feel like a broken sports fan. I just feel numb to the pain that the Cardinals and most Arizona sports teams do. I can't believe there was an outpour from the community, from the fan base, from the ownership that was so upset because the Commanders and Lions took over State Farm Stadium. You don't get to be upset about that. This state has always been a performance-based state. Play well, and the people will show. I'm not going to get upset with fans for selling their tickets to watch a team get blasted at home, to watch a team have a horrible second half at home. It's not a fans issue. That's a you issue. I don't care about the bandwagon Lion fans or the bandwagon Commander fans. This is a you issue. And fix it. Because you are slowly but surely losing all the momentum you had in the offseason with this team. After having a great December, after having a great early January, all that momentum seems to be lost. You have not taken advantage of it. The largest red and white crowd at the training camp practice where they had the scrimmage, red and white scrimmage, all those fans, all that momentum, wouldn't be shocked if you lost a half of them. You can't have these kind of performances. I won't chalk it up to the players outside of Sean Murphy Bunting and the free agent signings because they stick out like a sore thumb. This is on Monty Austin Fort, Jonathan Gannon, mostly Drew Petzing. Nick Rawlis deserves some blame. Something has to change. It is week 6 of a new tenure, of a new front office, and still it feels like the more things change, the more they stay the same with the Arizona Cardinals. Pathetic performance. And it wasn't even their worst of the season.